Speaking of deck construction, one thing that I'd be really interested in is hearing Gustaf and Peter deconstruct some tier 1 deck and explain why the bits are in it that are
Why
there.
that is a good mech.
Or why a person did what they did. Like, why are these cards here?
All right, Michael, pick that deck. All right, this is going to be our last thing. All right, I think I know which one because we talked about this before.
I'm going to pick
the GorgeMaster?
The GorgeMaster. I want you guys to explain how the GorgeMaster works and why it works, because the first time I saw this thing, I did not understand it, and it opened up doors in my mind to how you might build a deck that were completely closed before.
And I'll pop that up on the screen so viewers can watch. So
First
you guys don't have to worry about
from
explaining.
1999. And what did it place in 2000? I don't think it made. Yeah, there's a first place winner in 99, and I don't know who played it.
Yeah, this is a really good teaching deck, actually.
Look at the name, the cards that are included in there that we ended up wanting to include in that Inner Sphere deck.
All right. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the unit selection or the other card selection, or what?
Let's start with the unit selection because that's the background, and then that'll explain the other cards as well as the resource choices.
Yeah, I think I've played this game or this deck a handful of times. The core is definitely the C3. You know, it takes full advantage of access to Owens and Owens Revised to give itself
yeah, we generally consider that not permitted anymore, right?
Yeah, well, back then it was A-OK. So he's got the Fire Starters, the Owens, and the Owens Revised. And
those Fire Starters with ECM, huge.
Yes.
Huge.
And the other one actually is pretty good too. I have a Marik deck. The very first deck I usually take against people is usually that has that Fire Starter in it. Very solid mech for its cost.
So we're looking at the Fire Starter FS9 OF.
Yeah,
that's a 1/6/3 with an overheat 3+1 and jump, which is nice because we'll talk about that in the other cards that he has in there.
Yeah, no, it's
what's interesting here to me is that the C3 deck theme seems relatively weak. I mean, yes, he's got his 9 Owenses, so he's got 13 C3 mechs out of a rough 24. That seems low. When I build C3 decks, I tend to assume that I'm building them with all units having C3, or at least most units. But he's got barely more than half of his units use C3. That seems weird to me.
Well, if you look at the generic Inner Sphere units with C3, because that's all that Marik has access to, I believe. I mean, your only quality stuff there is the Owens and the Fire Starter. The Cyclops is okay, but it's pretty expensive for what it does.
What's wrong with the Blackjack?
Slow.
1/7, it's slow. Yeah, it can get hunted by itself, and by itself, it only has 3 base attack. It's not worth it.
And then you look at the other mechs in here are all very good on their own. They don't need any support to function. The Huron Warriors, the Fire Starters, the Saladins, Galaglass, Anvil Revised, they're really good mechs.
He's only got 1 Anvil Revised.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising to me. I don't know if he would have modified that in the future. I would have taken Anvil Revised over both the Galaglass and the Ronda's Highlander. But
the Anvil Revised, it's Shyster's Anvil. It's kind of like I think this is Shyster's deck. And
that's yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is, and it's kind of like his signature deck and the name of the deck. So I think that it's his choice, his preferred choice. Now, Ronda's Highlander is interesting in that it has that hugely overcosted 1 missile, but it has the built-in intimidating paint job, just like the Widowmaker, just like the Yanlo Wang, and that by itself has the ability to turn a battle. And it has no problem fighting on its own.
He doesn't have munitions. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong deck. He does have munitions.
Yeah, he
I
does.
apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. He has to have munitions.
I apologize. Yep.
So the Saladins, of course, are the bane of all dashers. That's why we have the 4 Saladins. A 0 cost, free deploy, fast, that can do 3 damage, is a huge boon. I understand why some people choose to play 6. Because of his fast mech choices, it's better for him. I might even have 4 Owen Revised. I've built the the Evil Owens decks and had 12 Owens in my deck before. If you're going for having that fast bonus with C3, the double Owens attacking at the same time is great. Sometimes the choices to put in, I like is it Mech Warrior and Commander's Edition have the Gearhead. One Gearhead on there puts you at the magic number 7 between the two of them. It's pretty nice.
I think Marik too might even have access to
Chaos March Veteran.
Chaos March Veteran, yeah. So
absolutely. You and I are thinking the same language, Peter.
I actually kind of agree. The Saladin's pretty good against the Dashers, but you know, he doesn't really need it with 9, and it'd be even more Owens if he jumps Saladins. And they're not great in the other matchups. They're okay, and they can be a good damage boost, but I'm not sure he actually needs the full 4. Certainly doesn't need 6. But I might cut that to 3.
I think
and add another Owens. Make it 10 Owens and drop the Saladins down to 3.
I know. I would disagree. I think the Saladins are great because if you get a Saladin first round, it's like first round dash where you destroy a person's card under construction, except that it's a free deploy, cheaper version of it. Yes, you lose the Saladin for the next round, but that's no big shakes, right?
Right.
Well, on an open board, you always want to alpha strike it anyway because it does more damage that way. 3 every other turn is better than 1 every turn.
Especially considering that its odds of dying are sufficiently high in any engagement. Yeah, you alpha strike a Saladin every turn. So no, I definitely agree that the Saladins are a great choice because of course you play your first match and you get that Saladin out and you knock the other person's card under construction out. They know you're playing Inner Sphere, so they're like, I can put if I'm going second, I can do 1 and then tap to put a resource on. Because I know he doesn't have any dashers because he's an Inner Sphere player, and out comes the Saladin and whoops it. And then the next time they're a little more cautious. I see the value of that for sure.
The Saladin doesn't dash, does it?
No, it doesn't, but it's a free to play that will
I'm sorry, you're right. It's a free to play, but it's still like you get it out first turn then. Can you do that?
Yeah, you can drop it turn 1. Just drop it, and then the munitions.
Yep, you play the free deploy first, and then you get the munitions
Yes.
afterwards, and it's out the first turn, which is why it deters that evil dasher.
Yep.
So let's move on to the medium speed. I mean, we talked about the fire starters, the Huron Warrior with the AT buyout, 4 cost.
Just seems like a reasonable mech. No great shakes, but solid.
I look at it as just it has good options. Most of the time, I just assume it's going to overheat. So it's an 8 hit point mech that does 4 damage that can occasionally make itself tougher.
Yeah.
And it looks a lot better when you look at it that way.
Yep. And if they chump, you still get 1 to the stockpile.
Right.
Yep.
That's a bonus.
Yep. It's a good mech. I would have replaced the 2 Gallo Glasses with 2 more anvils personally. But
I think the Gallo Glass is an interesting call. I'm not sure. It's tough to know what his meta was. Like, I'm looking through this deck, and I think he looks like he's scared to death of clan decks. Because, I mean, outside of the Saladins and the Owens, he also has main deck Gorges, main deck Falsified Maps, 2 more Gorges in the sideboard, and another Saladin.
Yep.
He doesn't have main deck Falsified Maps, but he does have 3 in his sideboard.
Yeah. So what he's thinking is, look, people are going to be playing clan fast decks, hunt down, or they're going to be playing clan decks where I need to have a gorge down and then I map for a second gorge and I take out all of his elemental points. That's why there are so many gorges and maps in that deck, is that the iteration on how you play out the maps in the gorge is such that you can get 4 damage to every attacking mech.
So we should explain that. The idea is that someone's attacking you, you've got a rocky gorge, it does 2 damage to every attacking mech, and then when it's your turn, so you play the ability of the Rocky Gorge, and then you play Falsified Maps to go and get a new terrain. Guess what? It's another Rocky Gorge. You put it down, you replace the previous Rocky Gorge, and you play its ability as well. And now you've done 4 damage to every attacker.
Yes.
It's a bit of an unthematic combination, but it's fun. Falsified Maps.
It's winning against clan is what it is. It's winning against clan.
Right.
That sounds like the things that they did to beat the clans. It's definitely Comstar. That's Anastasia's Fox, got written all over it right there.
Right.
Like coming to my Rocky Gorge. Well, I've got a Rocky Gorge on my
we
Rocky
heard you
Gorge.
like Rocky
for you.
Gorges, so.
And you could jump. I mean, these mechs have jump, so you can play it and surprise them, and it's yeah.
Rocky Gorge is one of the few cards in the game that is not just an excellent tool against swarm decks and fast decks, like Dasher decks, but it's also a good card to have in your deck anyway. Right? It's good. It's decent all the time and exceptionally good some of the time.
More or less, I feel right now at the tournament level, Falsified Map and Rocky Gorge should both be in your main deck of just about every deck. Because the only matchup I think it's even subpar in is against Clan Big Mac.
Right.
You are always going to be happy when you see those cards in your hand. You're always going to be happy, at least in competitive play.
Yeah, I mean, the game right now is so fast and low to the ground. We have dashers, elementals, vehicles, and it just crushes all of them. And in a lot of cases, it's the only thing that crushes all of them. So yeah.
What's the price right now on a falsified map?
You know, I'm sure the people that are selling it have no idea what it's worth.
Yeah, there are some cards out there that are valuable and expensive because they're not only rare, but they also are the only way to accomplish a certain goal. So if you think about cards as having like a substitution value, so for example, the Black Lantern Prime is a cool rare and it does some cool stuff, but the substitution value is if I wanted a Black Lantern Prime, I could play Jade Falcon and use a Black Lantern A, and that's a common card. And so
or Grendel Prime.
Or Grendel Prime, which is another common card. So the dollar value of a Black Lantern Prime is never going to be that high. But with falsified maps and with Hasty Alliance as another example, there is no other way. There's no like cheap rent way of doing what they do. There's only the expensive way. And so if you want to go scan a copy of the thing and you know, use your color printer and solve your problem that way, I don't think anybody's going to be upset.
You know, this game is dead. Proxies are completely fine.
Yeah.
Completely fine. I have no problem playing with proxies against anybody that sits across my kitchen table.
If they were to be able to get to an island in Alaska.
In the Pacific, correct.
Jeepers. All right. So what about so we talked about the mix. Let's talk about the other cards.
So let me say about this, because you said this was a good deck to learn on. I actually learned a lot from this deck as well. And you see he's running, it's basically a singleton mission strategy. And so we talked about this, you know, the big advantage of this is surprise value. You never know what he's got in his hand and what's coming to mess with your mission. But it also runs studied move. And so I mentioned this earlier, I run 2 or 3, he usually just runs 1. It means that even though it's a surprise what's coming, his deck still has some consistency to it and maintains a huge toolbox besides. We talked earlier, he's got a bunch of jumpers. At any time, he can jump, studied move, and pull any mission he needs to turn that battle around.
And the missions that he's choosing that have the ability to do one way or the other, you're looking at heavy fog. You can keep your mechs alive off of a block or off of an attack if they have a surprise. You have risky combat jump, where you could jump, go bad, and then play a heavy fog.
Right.
So there's just so many different choices.
Remember that in a typical situation, the most important thing that you can do with a mission card is generate a kill where one did not exist or prevent a kill where one did exist. So heavy fog in the right situation can prevent 2 kills, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
I think even more risky combat jump.
Risky combat jump can prevent a kill and create a kill.
One. And that's why, even though we're going back to all our points, even though you use dice rolls, it is seen so much because no other card has the potential to turn a board around like Risky does.
Absolutely. This is another one of like the core ways in which the CCG does not model the board game. In the board game, the more damaged a mech is, the fewer weapons it can bring to bear. It would be a very interesting house rule to play. I don't speak for, I have no idea how balanced this would be. It'd just be interesting to say every damage counter on a unit counts as a -1 attack counter as an idea.
You know, I thought that exact same thing earlier on in our conversation where when Peter was bringing up the fact that units are max power until they're dead. And so I was like, what if you just -1 for every structure damage? So that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe like -1 for every
value.
2 or something, because they're still
or
going to have
something.
weapons.
Yeah.
Even simplify
every
it,
two.
half structure, half damage.
Yep.
But yeah, it needs to be to a minimum too as well. They shouldn't be toothless. You get
Well,
into
no,
you
you
can't
could
go to nothing.
Chump blockers could still block. But I would say something like, because a structure point costs half a resource and an attack point costs 1 resource. Like every 2 points of structure would represent -1 attack down to a minimum of 1, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Okay.
So you have to have
that-
1 so you could jump.
Or just so it's relevant.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just so
to
you're
use it
relevant,
as anything other than a chump blocker, because there's very few times, even in the tabletop, where a mech is completely toothless.
Right.
It happens, but it's not super common.
Yeah, it
I like
is
that.
somewhere
I
they
like
could
that.
have gone.
That's a house rule that I would enjoy. There's another game out there that I play in the Wheel of Time that's popular, that every damage is 1 ability lost, 1 number of an ability lost. You choose. So that's consistent.
Awesome. There we go. We got a nice house rule out of this. That was good.
Anyway,
Right.
we were talking about the singleton mission strategy and how some of these missions work well. I'm surprised that Overrun is missing. I would have thought if you have 1 forged mission orders and 1 studied move, then you should have 1 Overrun. Just for the threat, if nothing else.
I think, like I said, looking at this deck, this seems very optimized to me against Clan. Overwhelm, very anti-Clan card. Heavy Fog is an anti-Clan card.
Why is Heavy
Final
Fog an
Push-
anti-clan card?
Well, it strongly favors the defender because it's not applied equally. They get -2 attack and prevent 2 damage. So I think Mark had a big article on this actually, where he used 3 Fenris Primes versus 3 Fenris Primes. And he said, okay, their Fenris Primes now each do 1 damage for a total of 3. Yours still do all 3 for a total of 9 -2 for 7 damage left. So in that trade-off, your 3 Fenris Primes would kill one of his, and his would barely scratch yours. Heavy
Right.
Fog works because it's not symmetrical. It looks symmetrical, but it's incredibly one-sided for the defender.
Yeah. It's a huge good defender card, and Clan is so aggressive at the outstart. You want to have the Saladins, you want to have the Heavy Fog, you want to have the Rocky Gorges and the maps, because Clan has a huge advantage at the beginning of nearly every game, generally.
The other thing I'll notice, I don't think he needs the Overrun. He's got Blitzkrieg and Final Push in the main board. Yeah, and with the studied move, he plays like he has more of those than he needs anyway. So,
Right. Okay.
I love Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg is why you play Marik.
it's a top 3 mission in the game.
Blitzkrieg is why you play Marik. It's right up there with the Jade Falcon or
Steel
not
Talons.
Steel Talons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vipers. Yeah, I think those 2 and Vipers Wad be my top 3 in some order. Maybe Falsified Maps cracks that list. I don't know.
Steel Talons.
Yeah.
I love Steel
Yeah.
Talons.
So that would be the top 5, right? Blitzkrieg.
Steel Talons, Viper's
Steel
Maw,
Talons.
Falsified Maps.
What was your
Fifth
first?
spot's open for debate. I think it starts getting nuanced after that.
Yeah.
Risky combat jump.
It's probably risky, but
Or
you know,
superior nav or something.
or even Overrun. I mean, it starts getting a little fuzzy after that. But
It's yeah.
those 4 or 5 are definitely the top missions in the game.
Right.
All right, guys, this is awesome content, but I think we're kind of turning into a pumpkin here. So,
Fair enough.
one thing I definitely want to do, I like to do the little giveaways, so people can kind of get engaged in comments and kind of, everyone likes a little gamble giveaway. So, I'll kind of put together those 2 decks that we came up with after. We'll do some optimization, kind of get them perfect, and then kind of, we'll make the winner of whatever I kind of decide to kind of get those 2 decks mailed out to them so they can kind of have a little.
You know what you should do? I mean, let's build them in Lackey and let's play some games on them, see what we can figure out.
And that's one thing a lot of people have asked about watching games, and so I definitely want to kind of coordinate with either multi-view to kind of get some games recorded, get a commentary overlaid over them, and kind of start putting that up, because I think people really want that, and I think it'll really help them to see the actual gameplay rather than just us talking about it for 2-3 hours.
I can Twitch BattleTech if I put Lackey back on my computer.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, I got mine set up now. So, I mean, yeah, I'd definitely be down to do it. I just need some advice on setting up recording.
Yeah. So you guys get that recording. I can plug it onto the channel, with a, talk over. And yeah, people can watch that. That'd be awesome.
I can also send, I'm going to send you, now that I have your address, Travis, I can send you a bunch of those cards.
Awesome.
I've got hundreds and hundreds of extra rares.
Yeah, and for those listening,
I can send them all to you.
Yeah, for those listening,
junk rares.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of orbital bombardment.
This isn't superior navigation. This isn't superior navigation. This isn't superior navigation.
Well, I'm gonna for those listening. I talked to Gustaf. He was gonna forward me some cards, and I was basically gonna use those to just create a bunch of kind of decks, and we were gonna come up with some very kind of straightforward kind of learning decks, and just kind of start handing them out or selling them to people for basically what shipping was if they're engaged with the channel. Maybe if they hop on the Patreon.
Right. Yeah.
If they hop on the Patreon, they're supporting the channel there. We can kind of send you some good starter decks, because I realized after I did that giveaway for the last one, I was like, oh, I'm giving away a starter and some stuff, but if people are playing the game, they actually need like two starters and two starters that actually have some playability, if they're going to get into it. So yeah, we'll try to do that with these kind of little giveaways to help support the community as we're also trying to build it with these episodes.
Build some decks. Yeah. I mean, I have so many decks that already are built, all the different themes. And I'm sure most of these people that are 20 plus year veterans at this point in time who have built decks over the decades now have just dozens of decks built, ready to go, that obviously aren't seeing much play at this point in time in my life. I'd be happy to share with you guys.
Awesome. And if there's people listening that have thousands of cards and they want to kind of donate to the cause, I'm sure we can get plenty of good learning decks just built on basic cards that they wouldn't take to top competitive, but people can learn the game playing their not so great, playing their Leo Showers is out there, even though that's a rare.
The orbital bombardments.
Orbital bombardments. Yes. Awesome.
Leo, I think, saw play in the first Worlds, didn't he? He was in Cyborg or something.
He was somewhere.
Yeah, he was. He would never see play today, but yeah, he made it into the first Worlds.
Well, that's it. That would be interesting to explore. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to try to, I've tracked down Terry. He actually messaged me while we were talking. I didn't see what the message was though, and try and get kind of some people. If I can get Terry and Peter to just talk about kind of their back and forth.
No, that'd be fantastic.
I got to find Peter, to do that. But it sounds like
Mark in there too. Yeah, you'd have a good collection of guys. There's a lot of war stories.
Yep, I got Mark in there. Yep. Mark's ready to go whenever we get it organized. So yeah, there's some great episodes coming up. But
Peter is more of a friend for me. But I have good friends that are good friends with Peter, and I'll reach out to them.
Awesome. Yeah, let them know what we're trying to do. That'd be awesome.
I just wanted to tell we were completely wrong in our analysis of the deck.
Yeah, it's like you guys are morons.
Is Shane Koo? Is Shyster Shane Koo?
We don't know.
I don't know.
Is that Shane Koo? Because I'm still friends with him. He's a computer programmer in Hong Kong, I think.
First of all, you could ask him, and second of all, you could probably ask Mark. He'd probably know.
Mark would know. Yeah, I could ask Mark.
Right.
Hey, thanks, Travis. This has been a good time.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks.
I appreciate you guys. It's been fun. Do you guys have any kind of links or stuff you want to kind of plug before we sign off?
Nothing that wasn't in the original show. Come to the Facebook group, read the announcements, say hello. Awesome. Get online, Lackey, TTS.
I'd like to do Travis and Michael, if you guys could do like a video tutorial, like a recorded tutorial of setting Lackey up.
Yep, I will be happy to do that. Travis, hit me up. I know the tutorials in the announcements, but
a video tutorial.
That's
what I think would be fantastic, because I'm very much visual learner.
I thought about that today. Like literally, I was like, "Oh, people hate learning for themselves. They just want to follow a to-do video." Yep. And so,
YouTube video, perfect. Make it happen.
Awesome.
I wondered too if we should think about it. I mean, do you think we could host our own custom Lackey itself? Because I think a lot of the problems I see are just the basic macro settings and the basic backgrounds aren't set up for BattleTech. And I mean, I've never had a problem with it because I've customized mine, years ago. But yeah, for people that are struggling with it, maybe we should look at hosting our own. Because it's not develop it.
Let's talk. It's out of development. We don't have access to the source code, but let's talk about that later. I think there's probably some stuff we can do. Cool.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's it. Let's sign off. I appreciate it, and we'll talk more.
Thank you.
All right.